Hey everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. Only joking. Welcome back to All for Crypto. This is Kurt. In fact, I'm pretty gutted I've had to do the video like this because I really wanted to do one in front of the PC, screen recorded, show you documents and other variables that I'm about to talk about. But it's pretty funny, really. Chris, Hooded Suburban, sure you all know who he is. Sent an email over to Gregory Mannarino. He's been speaking about the reset, the two-tier system. So Chris was kind enough to send him an email over, explaining about obviously what we've been covering for the past, however long it is, 16 plus months. And it was actually quite funny, really, because he actually made a video about it. He don't go into say who it is, name specific, for example, Wolf of Crypto or Chris or whatever. But at the end of his video, he actually did refer to the email, saying there's a couple of the imbecile YouTubers out there that seem to think that it's all part of the plan. Now, honestly, I'm a very advocate speaker of Gregory Mannarino. He's very insightful. He's very good at what he does, his engagement. He's obviously built a bit of a community behind him. He likes to talk shit about the Federal Reserve, talk shit about the economy, talk about the establishment, the deep state, how basically the middle class are going to get slaughtered. Which I find amusing, really, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's jumped on us, calling us imbeciles. Imbeciles. It's funny as well because Gregory Mannarino does refer to people as sheep. Unfortunately today, Gregory, you are the sheep. Because in your pretty little mind of yours, you're under the illustration that we're about to witness the end of mankind according to your scriptures on your video blogs. How the middle class are going to be decimated and it's going to be a two-tier system. Because of current failings of monetary policies and so forth. And it's really amusing because absolutely fuck all about digital assets, Gregory, my Gregory old friend. And if you did know anything about digital assets, because all you're reading, because your coverage is all from the CNBC media, I just find it quite disturbing how you actually don't know about what is happening. Clearly not educated in the mannerisms that I actually once thought that you was. And yet you do talk a good economic game. Don't get me wrong, you speak a good economic game. But you absolutely have zero, and I mean zero knowledge on the stuff that we've been covering on this channel. Because if you did have the slightest bit of knowledge, then the establishment, the deep state, and I'm bending my fingers up in the air as you do in your videos, the deep state establishment, that you keep speaking about in negative form about how they're going to decimate the middle class and the middle class will never win. Well, anyway, the deep state establishment, as you keep referring to, it's absolutely funny. In fact, it's laughable because this is what you don't understand. And if you did understand, and I'm sure, Gregory Mannarino, you have heard of Kevin Shipp. You've heard of Kevin Shipp. You probably understood the inner workings of the deep state, the establishment, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. You should know the organisations and the institutions that are part of the deep state, the financial aspect of the deep state, the IMF, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve, central banks around the world. As you say in your videos, are all on the same side. You're absolutely right, Greg. I'm not taking that away from you. But what I am taking away from you is you're calling Wolf of Crypto, so we say. I mean, I'm presuming that it was referred to us. You're calling us imbeciles. But what you don't know, Gregory, is what we're talking about is highly documented. Bear in mind, it's documented, connected to all of these institutions, the IMF and Ripple. Ripple sit on the high-level advisory board for the IMF. Now, why would a cryptocurrency project, if you want to call it that, so you believe in your savourism video that you once spoke about, why is Ripple's Chris Larsen, and I'm sure you probably know who Chris Larsen is, and if you don't, then it really just goes to show how uneducated you are in his space. But why does he sit on the high-level advisory board for the IMF? Why are the World Bank, and there's documentation to support this, Gregory, why is the World Bank branding XRP as a supranational currency? Why is the World Bank endorsing Ripple as this great technology and transformational technology that is going to change the world of cross-border payments? You know, the IMF and World Bank, that was created in 1944 during the Bretton Woods, basically the elitist institutions of monetary power and policy. Imbecile, yeah. It's imbecile, isn't it, Greg? Yeah, it is. I mean, and we can go a step further, Gregory, because this video is aimed specifically at you. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve. You know, you always refer to in your videos how people think now Trump's going to bring down the Fed. Again, I'm bending my fingers in the air, Greg. Why the Federal Reserve launching a faster payments task force? Sorry, launched and deeply embedded into it to be fully integrated before 2020. Why is the Federal Reserve in close proximity and dialogue with Ripple? Let's go to the Bank of England, probably the most prestige central bank on this face of the earth. Mark Carney, who is obviously the governor of the Bank of England, who's also the governor of the Financial Stability Board, and we all know who they are, don't we, Greg? I mean, me and you don't need to go any further in how deep they're connected to the deep state. But why is it that they, the Bank of England, why are they in direct partnership with Ripple? Why are they experimenting and using and moving forwards with integrations with Ripple and with Ripple technology? More specifically, the Interledger protocol. And Gregory, these documentations, I will show you the proof of concept issued directly from the Bank of England. So, again, the imbecile YouTubers that you keep referring to. I mean, you go and ask yourself, we've just heard it all in the IMF Spring Summit. They're talking about the digital economy. Now, I don't know whether you believe that we're going to be taking paper form, bills, checks, US dollars into the digital economy to act as the world reserve currency. I know, Gregory, you've seen the condition of the United States markets, the stock markets, the bond markets. They're in absolute dire condition. And again, it's all articulated. It's all propping up the bonds, suppressing bond rates, propping up the stock market. As you say, I'm quoting yourself here, Greg, quotation. But, you think it's imbecile of us to be talking about a technology which has been endorsed by the IMF, which has been endorsed by the World Bank, which has been endorsed by the Federal Reserve, which has been endorsed by the Bank of England, which has got over probably more than 250 banking clients worldwide. That's of those who are the biggest institutions that operate on the SWIFT network. And we all know what the SWIFT network is, don't we, Greg? Yeah, it's the corresponding banking network that failed miserably in 2008 during the liquidity crisis. Again, we don't need to go there, Gregory. We all know that you know what you're talking about in traditional markets. But come and step into my world, Gregory, for a minute. Because after that financial crisis, after the Federal Reserve had to bail out the top banks of the USA, using Lehman's brother as the guinea pig to show what would happen if they didn't intervene, after that, during the G20 summits of 08 and 09 and the United Nations meeting of 08-09, why do we have all the central banks and their respective leaders, again, Gregory, finger bending in the air? Why are they all calling for a new monetary system? Why are they calling for resilience against the United States dollars? Because we both know, Gregory, the dollar is fucked. It is on a lifeline. It cannot continue the way it is going. Why in 2009 was China calling for a supranational currency? because of the Triffin's dilemma that is exerted onto the United States dollar, where the Federal Reserve policy, monetary policy, has zero effect on the market. They are no longer doing the duty of what they need to do. We've seen it, Gregory. We've seen the Federal Reserve increase interest rates, and we both know where the interest rates went after that. They went lower. We all know it's a fingers in the air managed market, Gregory. We know this. Of course we know this. Jesus Christ, a 4-year-old could see it. But how on earth, Gregory Mannarino, can you not see this? You have been dumbed down and you are categorized into the blind sheep. You know how you spoke about the 1% and the bulldozing of the middle class walking straight into it? You've just walked into it yourself, my friend. Because what you don't understand and what you can't seem to realize is the greatest and biggest institutions of financial power, if you want to call it the establishment or deep state, are so heavily involved with Ripple and its technology that it's ludicrous to you. What's more ludicrous is I can't actually believe you've not seen the documentations from the IMF, from the World Bank, from the central banks. Bear in mind, Ripple are in close proximity with over 50 central banks. They are working with the Federal Reserve. Donald Trump himself, you know, the same alliance with the Federal Reserve, as you go to say, signed an executive order that created the Federal Reserve's Faster Payments Task Force. And who did Donald Trump sign in with that executive order? I don't need to tell you, Greg, because it was Ripple. Ripple are here, they're there, they're fucking everywhere that the establishment are operating. And no, this isn't just about trying to get rich, as you say, you know, the middle class, the saviorism. It's fucking common knowledge, Greg. I can't believe I've been an avid supporter, Greg, avid supporter of your channel for way over a year now. And I love every single... I don't know, this isn't a diss to you, Greg. You're a great man. You're a great person. You're educating the masses, the sheep, so-called, as you speak. And I just felt the duty that I needed to also educate another sheep in the world who clearly doesn't see the direction of the digital economy. I mean, Gregory, in Washington, D.C., the IMF have just held their spring meeting. Did you not watch any single part of that? Or was you too busy watching sheep CNBC TV? Because that's all you seem to do. You know, rather than watching the real world events, seeing what's being said around the world with CEOs of major institutions and hedge funds and central bank representatives and Christine Lagarde, the managing director of the IMF. Rather, you know, you just want to cover the fake news of the CNBC, and that's fair enough, Greg. That's fair enough. But what I'm trying to get you to do is, you need to seriously look into what is happening. Now, when you say Bitcoin, Bitcoin is a farce. It is a look over here, don't look over there distraction, as you like to say, fingers bent in the air. But what you need to understand, Gregory, is, look, listen, we both know this. We both know the US dollar is fucked. The inversion curve on the yields, on the treasury yields for the United States is fucked. It's not normal. As you always say, how can the dollar be rising whilst the stock market's rising? It's a managed market. It's about keeping the market propped up. Not for as long as possible, but until integration phase is over with. Now, if you want, Greg, I'll send you all the documentation from the World Economic Forum. Oh, funnily enough, again, the World Economic Forum, you know, with your JP Morgan and all your mega super banks and the corrupted people of the world. Yeah, Ripple are sitting alongside them as well, yeah, you know, in this fairy tale fantasy of yours that you've eluded into your mind through misinformation and lack of education in this space. But, Greg, if you think that we are not going into a digital economy, if you think that Ripple do not see on the high-level advisory board for the IMF, if you do not think that the World Bank branded Ripple and XRP as a supranational currency, if you do not think that Ripple sits on the World Economic Forum board, if you do not think that Ripple and its technology has been adopted as the standard by the W3C, which is the working group for the World Wide Web Consortium of Governance and Regulation, if you think all this is a fairy tale and saviorism, then by all means, Gregory, get your ass down on some love for crypto and we'll have this out, me and you. Because honestly, Gregory, you've just said in your last video, which I watched this morning, that you will debate anybody, that you will have anybody on, and you will walk them around. Well, Gregory, I'm here waiting for you. I'm ready to school you for once, Gregory. You know, when the master becomes, well, I don't know what the fucking phrase is. I don't even care what the phrase is. But one thing that I do need to say to you, Greg, is you are misinformed. You are uneducated in the direction of the space, what is going over. I believe in everything you say in regards of distractions, in look over here, don't look over there. Yeah, Greg, listen, you're not the only one who knows about deep state, about the establishment, about the Illuminati, the Freemasons, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Listen, I've watched 8 hours of Kevin Shipp's CIA, who's come out in the open and he blew the whistle on all this stuff. I know more about the construction, the design, the way that the deep state and the shadow government operate. A lot more than yourself, Greg. And you know what I found, what I was highly amusing to myself, was seeing that Ripple and XRP is completely deeply embedded with all the same institutions. Now what does that tell you, Mr. Gregory Mannarino? You know, what does it tell you? You know, is it ludicrous? It's ludicrous for a YouTube channel to be speaking about cryptocurrency. But, you know, when a CIA agent comes out and specifically speaks about the one world order, the one world government, the one world currency, and it's going to be going through digital assets, through the SDR basket, into digital assets. You know, I'm listening to a CIA whistleblower with a credible resume and legitimacy behind everything he's saying. Everything he's saying, Mr. Mannarino. And listen, you're not the first to call out this. I seen your chemtrail stuff the other day. It appears it might have been the first time you've ever witnessed that before. I also found that shocking. I thought you was a lot more intelligent than that, Greg. And I just heard you this morning saying you'll debate anyone. And I was just sat there laughing with the complete lack of information that you clearly possess in that multiple brain cell functioning of yourself, as you like to say, you know, when you're calling people sheep. And I just can't believe you're actually a sheep. I can't believe you've been categorised as a sheep from myself, because it's absolutely unbelievable. You know, I've been watching you, Gregory, since day immemorial, as you say. And you know, you've said you can't find a valuation of crypto assets. You know, you say you struggle with it, you don't understand it, that's why you sold it, because you didn't know what was going on. But you know, you had a little dig at love for crypto, you know, for trying to reach out to you, to try and educate you, to try and show you all the documentation, all the facts, all of what is happening in this digital asset space. And well, Gregory, I think it's time that you got schooled and debated, because you could not be more wrong. And there is nothing that you can say to shut this down, because I will come back harder and faster than you can even think. Listen, I'm happy to do a Skype call with you. I don't want no aggression in it, none whatsoever. A lot of people mistake my passion for aggression, unfortunately. I know you're a passionate person as well, Greg. And listen, you can say what the fuck you want on Love for Crypto. No holds barred, we don't care. But I will come equipped with every single piece of documentation you will ever need to see. Because, you know, I need to counter-argument you, and I will debate you, and I will absolutely take your pants down, mate, with this stuff. Because I know this in the back of my head like you would not believe. Now, yeah, you might be good at financial markets, but listen, you do not understand what is happening in the world. You do not understand it in the slightest. So, Gregory, are you going to be a man, or are you going to be a chicken? And I know you're not a chicken, Gregory. I know. You are not a chicken. But we'll soon find out. We'll soon find out whether Gregory Mannarino will debate anybody, or whether he'll just disappear into the shadows with his traditional CNBC, you know, lies and distraction and corruption. Or does he want to actually learn something about digital assets? Because it's clear to anybody, you know zero. about digital assets. On that note, Gregory, I'm going to fuck off.